All right, guys, welcome back. We had some technical difficulties trying to get on at 9:32, but here we are. And this is Healing Conversations for the Soul. And I'm excited. We're waiting on Farron to try again. We're going to try one more time. Farron, welcome. I see you trying to kick in. Here we are, and this should work. Yeah. All right, so we're just waiting on Farron to pop up any second here. And this should be, it should be.
Boom! We should have just stayed on the line the first time.
That's okay.
I want to do a pre-show.
We are here. Okay? So
Right.
that's what counts. So first of all, thank you for being a part of this tonight. This is an exciting conversation for me because I know how important it is. And I also want to say that you are such an important piece of my life that I have to tell this story every time I get a chance. You already know where I'm going.
Man.
So if somebody watches it on the pre-show, I guess they'll see that I am with the one, the only Farron Dozier. I'm going to properly introduce you a little later, but I just want to say this. Thank you for being who you are in my life. Thank you for the fact that you saved my life. After God, I always name your name when it comes to my life and the fact that I am alive and living. And it means so much to me because those who don't know, now they know. You were pivotal in me being able to say that today I haven't had a crisis in 6 years, and I don't anticipate on ever having another one. That is unheard of for sickle cell disease. I know a lot of people who don't understand it. I say it's a miracle, but I also say that I know who God sent as the angels to be the miracle in my life. And so I shall never forget that. It doesn't really matter what anybody says. So I'm grateful for you. And if I never get to say it again, I will say it tonight. I am so grateful that you are a part of my life and that what you have done and who you are cannot be replaced for me. So I start there.
And it's all God's work.
I start there. I know you're a humble guy, but I start there. So let me start off by introducing you. So who I am talking to, y'all, since y'all are late into the game. Okay, Farron is a sickle cell disease trait advocate. He is a retired Army sergeant, first class, and he is also well, I didn't even. He rides bikes. I wanted to throw that in there because has the dopest car I've ever seen. He is also right now a grandfather.
Yeah, I'm a grandfather.
I'm missing so much of this because you know I'm sweating trying to pull all the pieces together right here because he did send me his bio.
No, we good, man. All that stuff is.
And no, I feel like this stuff is so crucial for me. So okay, and I also want to talk about how I actually met Farron because we were having that conversation, and to me, that's an interesting segment. When I met Farron, I was still struggling with sickle cell so heavily, and I remember coming into the conversation with you, and I remember meeting Phyllis, who is actually no longer with us, but she was one of your mentors, so to speak, in the work. And I think advocacy is a kind of work that is oftentimes thankless and oftentimes very difficult because you're going against the grain of what people expect. And so tonight I wanted to wear this WDC. Y'all can't see. If you didn't know.
Flip it over on the back. Flip it over on the back.
So,
boom.
Boom. And the reason why I wanted to wear this tonight was to say that this has never left, me, because I've always thought, if God gives me an opportunity. I want to be on a stage where I can talk about what this really means. I'll never forget our Stop Sickle Sex campaign. So all this stuff, all this
We
stuff
not
goes.
finished. We not
So
finished.
we're not done. And also, Farron is also a radio host. He has his own podcast. What is it called again? The one right now? The
Yeah, I'm doing right now. I'm doing the WDC, the movement on the.
WDC, the movement. He was on LA Talk Live as well. And Farron is the real deal. Y'all, you know,
I
if you
appreciate
didn't know, now you know. So
it. Took a lot of work to get to be the real deal, though. It took a lot of work, and
it,
that's what we're
it,
here to
it
talk
took
about.
some real work. Welcome, Amir.
We're here
Welcome,
to-
welcome, welcome to the conversation. Tonight's conversation is one that I promise you. Amir is on the other side of the world, in Algeria. So welcome to the conversation. Those of you guys who are coming in, make sure you like and share, however you do that on Instagram and wherever you are. So tonight's conversation is a conversation that I think we all need. And it's a conversation about something that we all use. And it's actually a conversation about the thing coming out of my mouth right now. Words. Words. And when it comes down to it, the question at hand is, can you mean what you say and say what you mean? But tonight's conversation, my hope is that we'll be able to look at brother Amir. Welcome. I can't wait to share this with you guys because it's worth it so much. The question is, at what level are you able to use your words to really express yourself and receive the expression of others? Now, we've had conversation about communication, but this is not really just about communication. This is about language and healing the language. So right before I jumped on, I went looking for the definition of healing because I was like, this is part of what I want to do. And I'm going to just read this definition and then I want you to jump into your story because there's a story that I think you, as you share, you'll be able to really, I think it can free people. I really do. And I can't wait to have that conversation. But let's start first with the definition of healing. So the definition of healing is the process of making or becoming sound and healthy again. So by default, when you say you're healing, that means that something wasn't healthy. And in psych, we use the term broken, right? Pop psych uses that a lot. There's a brokenness. Some people say toxic. But what that really touches at the core is, who are you in the state you're in as a whole person? Are you whole? Are parts of you not working so that they show up in your life? And then you're like, wait a minute, it's not working. Well, tonight we want to start talking about the healing that can happen in words, in the words we use and don't use, which is a whole nother conversation, but it's part of this one.
Withholding communication is still communication.
That's communication. Another part that I think is super important in this conversation is when you say words, they are verbal and nonverbal, but they're still a part of what we might call the lexicon, which is what the brain thinks of when we make up the universe around us. The very things that we represent around us are all, they show up as words. And yet, a lot of what we see when we see nations at war, when we see people who fight among each other in our relationships, is because of the words we receive and the words we give, and our ability to see the difference between what those words mean, right? So, tell us the story of how you found healing in your relationship with your father. How did that happen? And I would like to start where it started for you. And what was broken? What did not work? And where did that brokenness start?
For sure. So I'll give you the short version since we don't, so the key points of the story is really important because my dad passed away last year.
Mm-hmm.
And so thankful to God that I was able to heal that relationship before he died. So we're going to go back in the past.
Yeah.
5-year-old little boy on Christmas playing with his toys on the floor at my grandparents' house. And my dad is there. I can see it like right now. You know, everybody's in the kitchen. There's talking. There's a Christmas tree. I see the flashing lights. There's presents. The smell of oranges and Christmas smell. And I'm on the floor and I'm playing and I look up and I say, hey, where's my dad? And somebody says, oh, he's gone. And in that moment, my mind says, oh, well, why did he leave? It's Christmas. Oh, well, he doesn't love me. And I start playing with my toys. Fast forward, I remember spending time with my dad up until 8 years old. And then he kind of disappeared. And then at 15, I'm going to high school. My mom says, hey, you need to go talk to your dad, get you some money because you're going to high school now, so you need to go. And I'm like, what? So she drops me off in my dad's barbershop, and here I am in front of my dad. So now I'm building this relationship. We're strangers pretty much because I haven't seen him now for 7 years, almost 8 years. And so we've reconnected our relationship. And as we were doing that, there was something in me that I loved him, but he was more like my brother.
Broken.
Right? There was a respect, but not like my dad. And so our relationship was we'd go play pool, right? We'd go to the pool hall, grab the pool balls, start playing pool, order some food.
Let me stop you because I really want to get the full picture. You're in your teens now, 15,
Yeah, I'm
16.
in my teens now.
But you feel like he's your friend.
Yes.
And not your dad.
Yes.
Okay. Explain what that feels like.
So that feels like when we had communication, I would talk crazy to him. I would talk down to him. I would disrespect him. I didn't believe him. I didn't trust him. Like there was all these internal things going on, but yet there was love all mixed together. And so
a part of you is like, this is my dad. I can just be friends with him, but
I don't like him.
You don't like him.
I don't like him.
Got it. So first of all, this is a conversation and we welcome you into the conversation. Hi, Jordan. Welcome to the conversation. That's my niece. And I'm happy to have you here. If you got questions, please feel free to join in. We definitely like the comments from everybody talking, but we're talking about what that experience was like for you. So you are going through a transition, but it started with a conversation that you had in your own head about your dad.
Head, yes.
And what did you say at that time?
That my dad didn't love me.
Okay, because I think hiding that away in the story will help us to find what's
going on. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. So this is what it would look like. This is one incident. We go play pool, grab the pool balls. We start talking. Right, he's my dad, so I'm telling him about my life and what I'm dealing with.
Right.
And my dad would say, "Well, if I was you, I would do A, B, C, D, and so my blood, like my skin would call with frustration, and I'd be like, man, how do you know? You don't know. You don't know about being in the military. You never been married before. Like you don't know nothing. Matter of fact, let's go. I don't even want to talk. I don't even play with you no more. Let's go. I'm done with you.
Because a part of you is actually wanting to respond to, where did my dad go? He doesn't love me. And the reason why I'm slowing this down, even though we could skip through that, is because I think that this is part of what we miss in words. And these words carry meaning. So when you see your dad again, you're actually not just seeing your physical dad. You're seeing an entire collection of words that we call language about who you think your dad is. Now, y'all stick around. Call your friends and your auntie and them and tell them we really gonna go in. Because here's what happens. Those words now have become a story. And I wanted to say this because words are literally like the alphabet, right, of emotional communication. So the way we understand our world is with words. And you said, he's not here because he doesn't love me.
Yeah. And remember, I told myself that.
You told yourself that. Crucial. All right. Finish.
A 5-year-old.
Right.
Told himself that.
Right. Said, my dad does not love me.
Right.
Now what happens?
So angry, frustrated, let's go. I drive, drop him off back at his place. I drive home, but now I'm mad at myself because how come I can't connect with my dad?
Mm-hmm.
I want to spend time with this dude, but
Yep.
I can't be more than 2 hours before he gets on my nerve.
Yep. And you're like, something is wrong, but you can't pinpoint it.
But I could not pinpoint it. And you're talking about from 5 years old till 40, that's how our relationship was.
And can I just say that you are not alone in this feeling or conversation in your head, because so many of us are going through this, but we go through it silently. And it may not be your dad or your mom, but it certainly is someone in your life that means something. It could be just a friend. It could be a significant other, where you are like, this person doesn't really love me, but they represent someone who should love me. And that's conflicting to the brain, because part of the words is love and the other part is something, right? That broken part, whatever that might be. You know what I mean? I remember the conversation we had about abuse, and it's the same thing happening, which is essentially this person says they love me, but they're doing things to me that are not loving. And you're looking at them, and there's this dichotomy, and the head is this is what we call, and I know you love this, Farron, so we're going to go in, but this is what we call cognitive dissonance, right? So that inability to marry these two opposing ideas in our heads. And of course, at the core of this is the meaning we have given to words. And understand, somebody might get this confused, but don't get this confused. When a situation happens, a situation is nothing but a collection of words and sentences that we've told a story for. And we take that story, and now that story is codified as one thing, a situation. And now we say these words mean that. And sometimes we ascribe that to people. We say that person is that, right? That's what a situation is. It's a combination of words.
And then you look for the evidence to verify the
and
story.
then you're jumping ahead, but okay, let's
sorry.
go. No, that's it right
where
there.
you was going.
You
Yeah,
look
so-
for the evidence. You look for proof that that story you told, but without an understanding of the words you ascribe and the power you're giving them, this changes. And part of your story there, because of the words you chose, was, it's Christmas, he doesn't love me.
A 5-year-old, yeah.
A 5-year-old has that vocabulary, but doesn't necessarily ascribe all the meaning of love.
Right, exactly.
So you got the words,
yeah.
You just don't know what that really means. So now you're playing basketball and you're like, but he doesn't love me. Yeah. And you're trying to work that out. All right, let's keep going. We going somewhere, y'all.
So pretty much I got 35 years of proof. And
yeah.
You couldn't tell me no different.
Because
right?
he left. So that was the fact.
And so I gained evidence, so that the 8 years that I didn't see him was my proof that he didn't love me, because my family would say, oh, I saw your dad. I'm like, what? Like, where? Like, how? Like, I haven't seen him. Like, oh, yeah, what? No. And he would call me, and I would call him, and he'd say, oh, I'm coming to pick you up. I'll be there, whatever. I'd be dressed, waiting at the door, looking out the window, and he never showed. And so I had 35 years.
What was the story you told when those things happened? What did you say about him?
Man, again, he doesn't love me, can't trust him. You know, I'm mad and I'm upset because I want to spend time with him and he's not coming to get me. Like all these little teenager ideas that we make up about our parents. And so at 40,
but slow down.
Okay, go ahead.
But in the teenage years, they're still real stories.
Oh, it was the truth.
The truth.
That was the truth.
The thing is, it's not a complete story because you haven't finished your life to know what everything is going to mean. But at that moment, you know that this is what you're gathering as evidence. And you're telling that story that this is what this means.
People have to understand how powerful that brain is, from a 2-year-old, 5-year-old, like that brain, like those children are paying attention to everything. And no, we don't know what it is to be an adult as a 5-year-old. I didn't have no idea, but the brain is functioning and firing off.
Yep.
Like is trying to understand what's going on in life,
Absolutely.
and that
Absolutely.
happens in whatever language that you learn to grow up in. And I grew up, and hey, he left me, and I don't know why. I don't even know why I said that. I don't even know why a 5-year-old would say that my dad didn't love me. I don't even know why, but that was what
But here's
showed
the
up.
thing, you don't even need a why
Right.
for it to be stored as a fact
Oh
in
yeah,
your
no, not at all.
mind. Not a fact in reality, a fact in your mind. In other words, you store this as truth.
Truth.
So a part of you is just seeing this as this can't even be contested because that's where it's stored in the brain as truth.
Truth.
When you store something as truth, somebody comes and contests, they just given you more proof of why you're right. This is why when you have conversation with people about religion oftentimes or politics, they store the reality of or the information about religion as truth, sometimes without testing it. But then
Exactly.
when someone comes and contests it, you're just giving them more ammo, more proof that you are wrong and they are right because it's stored as truth.
Right.
And so I'm saying that to say you had your story and the words you used were he doesn't love me, but you're given that you like you said 35 years.
No.
How do you get to healing with something like that?
So at 40, 35 years later, at 40, I'm in this landmark education course, and
Say it
the
again, because you know we both. I just this is. I need to be transparent for a moment.
yeah.
You were the one who got me to landmark education.
I
So
planted the seed.
so you were the one who got me there because you were the one who planted the first seed.
Yeah.
And when I heard it the second time, I gave it a chance because I had heard it before. And I thought, okay. And I didn't even know that this was what you had brought up.
Yeah.
But what happens is when you get presented with the same information, your brain starts to tell. This is just like, and I don't mean to be political, but when you hear Donald Trump, let's say he says something and you know it's not real,
Mhm.
but some people believe it because it's repeated over and over
Oh
and
yeah.
over. And eventually the brain starts saying, well, it can't be false with these many signals. Let me slow down and say this. When the brain receives information, what's happening is it's getting stimulus or things from the outside to interpret what is happening on the outside, and it gives it a conclusion. Oh, this is what's happening. So you hear a train, right? You hear the noise of the train, and then you go, oh, that's a train, right? But a part of what's happening is you're listening to the consistent of the train, and by hearing the noise over and over, there's an identification. If you shorten that too short, right? And you just heard a train that went and you didn't hear the rest of the train, you couldn't identify it as a train.
Right.
You wouldn't know what it was. You would just simply say, I heard the beginning of a noise. Scared me, but I don't know what it is. Right? It isn't until it plays for a couple of seconds that you go, sometimes even you might be listening and you hear and you're like, I hear a noise. It sounds like, I don't know. What is that? Oh my God, it's a train and it's behind us. Run. That's how that works. So you're getting information, and the information that you're getting is it requires a stimulus from the outside so you can identify what's going on. I have to say, sometimes part of what's happening with us is we get the information, right? But it's that translation that's not clear for us. We are trying to figure out, look, okay, I heard a noise and I'm identifying it as this, but then it shows up in your life as something else and you get confused. You're like, I'm not sure if that was a train. And the
Right.
same thing happens when you have two opposing ideas. When you have two opposing ideas and you're having a conversation with somebody, right? Some of what happens in your brain is this person loves me, but I'm not sure. This person doesn't. And that is what I'm hearing. I'm hearing you take in this information and then going to translate. And you said
Oh,
you
it was
went to,
corrupted. It was corrupted information. Corrupted. And I choose, and the word corrupted, because it's not right or wrong, it's not good or
yep,
bad.
yep,
It was corrupted information.
which means it had been changed from its original intention.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And this happens constantly to us as
All
human
day.
beings.
All day it happens to us.
Where
All
we
day.
hear something, it's corrupted into what we think it is, and then and so there's hope at the end of this conversation. So don't leave yet, because somebody might be like, well, that's it. If everything I'm hearing is corrupted, then what?
No, it's not. It is not.
And
It is not over.
in
Yeah.
2020, when everything has been challenged, it's hard to believe anything. But there's hope, right?
Yeah.
But first, you got to recognize the information was corrupted in your own brain. So a
You got it.
5-year-old
Yeah.
sees the dad leave and says,
Yeah.
doesn't love me.
So
And now you
at
do.
40, and so I'm sitting in this class at Landmark, and we go back into our relationship with our parents, because our parents are our first line of communication.
Yep.
Those are our first, and those are the most important people in our life, is our parents. Whether they're both there, whether there's one there and there's not the other, whether there's a mom or the dad, your natural human is going to look for a mom and a dad
That you're
at
looking
some
for.
point in your life. You are some natural look. So when we had the conversation about parents, I looked about my dad, and that story about the little boy on the floor with the Christmas was in my head. I saw that story years. I could see that story and pull it up, but I never knew why do I remember that day? Why does that story so significant in my mind why do I remember being on the floor playing with my toys? Like I didn't never know
What's so important about that?
why was that so significant? Well, in that education, that conversation brought that story to my memory, and I used those principles and tools to dissect it. And what I saw was my dad was my dad, and my dad loved me. And matter of fact, I was mad at him for really no reason, because I don't even know who said he was gone in the room.
Right.
It was just a voice in the room. But I got mad at him for leaving, and I have no idea what. So when I started peeling off those layers, what I saw, what was missing was gratitude and acknowledgement with my dad and who I was being.
Which, by the way, because I'm dealing with my 3-year-old niece right now, my sister's daughter, who is 3 going on 45. But the one thing she doesn't have is the ability to just be grateful, because to her, nothing matters more than what's in front of her at the moment. If I am busy with something super important and I don't include her in the process, it doesn't matter that I can't have her make noise. Like tonight, she was upset that she had to take a bath before bed. And guess what? It didn't matter that I had healing conversations to come and talk to y'all tonight. She basically was like, I don't care. I need you here now. Yeah. And that's the essence of a child. And there's nothing wrong with that.
But in the situation is, if the parent doesn't have patience or have that connectedness,
which is
go
their
sit
brokenness.
Down. Go to your room. Go over there and sit down. Leave me alone. I'm busy. And so now that child, those are what we call invisible traumas, because now that child is going to walk away and be like, well, he doesn't. And so now you make up your own story to make this situation make sense to you, which is not the truth, but it made sense. So, well, he doesn't care about me. And so now I'm going to go to my room because they don't care.
And can I say, when you have a child and you're trying to raise that child, or if you're a child and your parent is raising you, part of what's happening is the interaction between the child and the parent. The parent, quote unquote, should be able to tell the child, hey, I need you to be patient, and I'm going to be patient. That's not reality.
No.
That doesn't always happen. And part of what we got to be willing to forgive ourselves for is that our parents weren't perfect. And I'm not trying to jump ahead of you, but
no, you're good.
Our parents weren't perfect, and it's okay. And neither were we, which is that humility component that we started in our last conversation before, in our preparation for this. This is a part of what we're dealing with.
And so exactly where my healing came from is because I looked back at their life and I was like, well, dang, they were kids when they had me. It was 1970. Like,
you can only say that because you are no longer a child, even though you look like you're 15.
Right. Right. So it's like, so when I looked at all that, like, how could I be mad? How could I be mad? And so when I saw what was missing, so we look at not what's right or wrong or good or bad about my dad. No, in me, since I made up that story about him, then what's missing in my story?
Yeah.
Gratitude and acknowledgement. So now when I went to play pool with my dad after Landmark, we go same thing, play pool. I bring up my life because I want to talk to my dad about my life, and he says if I was you, I would do this, and this. And even though that moment my skin was still
You were like, you don't know nothing.
I remembered, who did I say I was going to be with my dad? I said I was going to be acknowledgement and gratitude versus being.
Stop. We're in the healing moment because you jumped over. So we're gonna take it.
Versus being who I was being before that.
Wait. You're going too fast.
Say it. All right.
Because part of the healing in this is the fact that you chose to be a word. Mm-hmm. And if you skip over that, your story is wonderful, but it's not the healing thing it could be for somebody. You chose to be a word. And that changed how you reacted to your dad after you saw
everything.
That, wait a minute, the story that I told and the way I chose to respond was not necessarily the truth. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be, and now tell me what you said again.
Gratitude and acknowledgement.
You chose to be.
I chose those on my own.
As opposed to
frustration and upset.
Because you knew that that's who you were.
Because I was being a brat. I was being.
This is not going to be our last conversation together on Healing Conversations, because I already know the depth of your mind, Farron. Mm-hmm. And I think that this is not a conversation we can have once and be done. But, so you will be back. I guarantee you. because there's more. But what you're saying right there is the healing for somebody listening right now, which is, I can now be different from what it is I said I would be by just choosing the word I choose to be. Yeah. That's the power. Yeah. I can be, what were your words?
Acknowledgement and gratitude.
Instead of what I'm feeling.
Yeah, what I felt versus what I felt like for 35 years.
And here's the thing. The thing you feel like is the thing you are. Because it's the thing you believe about you. Mm-hmm. And I wish my 3-year-old niece was here right now, because I just taught her, she's 3, going on 44. So I taught her what verbs and nouns are. Mm-hmm. So when I say, what's a verb? She says, it's an action word. I said, give me an example of a verb. And she goes, running. I said, give me another one. Oh, playing. I'm like, good. Why are they? Because it's an action word. She does all of this, right? So then I'm like, what's a noun? A noun is a person, a place, or a thing, right? Part of what we miss is we think of ourselves as verbs rather than thinking of ourselves as being, which is the reality of a noun.
Right.
Yet we're human beings, not human doings, right?
That is a phrase that it pays.
But we are intent on living as human doings.
Let me give an example to that. My mom is in Georgia. When they were in Michigan, right? And it was time to move. If I talked to her on the phone, she would say, oh, I'm like, are you excited? Oh, I'm excited. Oh, yeah, I'm excited to move to Georgia. But guess what?
What?
Has she packed a box? No.
So that was a lie.
So again, when we talk about words, sometimes you got to look in the dictionary and you got to go and find out what that word means, because a lot of words are action words, and being excited is an action word. You don't do excited. When you be excited, you pack. When you're going to Hawaii, you're going to buy shorts and outfits, and like you're in action.
You don't need nobody to show you how to be.
Exactly. So we use words, and we haven't said this yet, out of context.
Stop. Yes, we have it. We're coming. Healing is on this.
So when I looked in my life and say, okay, if I was being upset and frustrated on a light note, frustrated and upset with my dad, then who can I be that gives me power to connect and communicate with my dad? Well, I looked in my life and I saw that, well, when I get frustrated, I don't acknowledge what he says because I'm the one that's bringing up my life issues, and he's offering his point of
Help.
view. So, do I acknowledge him? No. So, what if I acknowledge my dad? Then guess what that does? It allows him to say what he's really saying, and really what at the end of the day, you know what my dad was saying? I love my son.
Mm.
That's all he wanted to say.
Stop. Stop. Wait. Uh, because somebody might miss this one too. And I just don't want this stuff to go away. You were saying he doesn't love me.
Yeah.
Because he left you at 5. And then in the rest of your life, you showed examples. You were proving that.
Yeah, I had.
And then in the middle of all of that, right? He's proving it over and over because he's an imperfect person. So every time he does the littlest thing, you're like, here it goes again. I said it for 35 years. And you get to this point where you say, who am I being in this situation? Frustrated. And what was the other word?
Upset.
Upset. I'm being upset and frustrated. That's who I'm actually being. Forget what I'm doing. I'm actually
forget what
being.
I was doing. Forget what I was doing. Yes.
It does, because being something means that it incorporates all of who you are at the time. It's not just something that where you get to put it out in the world and leave it there. Like when I go biking, I bike, and then when I come back home, I'm no longer biking. Right. When you are being something, it takes up your entire self. There's not a part of you that cannot be upset.
And it's attached to your experience as well.
It's attached to everything you create as your reality, including the experience you have.
Yeah.
So you were being those words. And yet, a part of you said, after Landmark, you were like, hey, I want to be something different. You chose that you were going to be gratitude. And what was the other one?
Acknowledgement. So
you choose these 2 powerful words and you start acknowledging your dad and being grateful for your dad. I'm assuming that's what you did.
Yeah, showed him gratitude.
Meanwhile, he's having another conversation in his head about the words he has for you. Mm-hmm. His words were, I love my son. Mm-hmm. But you couldn't even see the reality of that.
Oh, no.
Because what you saw was, you left.
Yeah.
And you don't love me. Because that's your conclusion at 5. Yeah. And a part of what we do, and I'm saying we because I'm just like y'all, is we walk with our convictions strong, bold, and wrong.
And wrong. Corrupted.
Corrupted is corrupted. That's the right word. Because it actually is, I am in this and I'm committed. So when you commit to the story that you told about that person in your life, it doesn't matter what else they do.
Nothing. No.
It doesn't matter if they do the opposite of what you say. No. Because you will find inside of what they're doing where we actually can start our conversation tonight. Yes, I said start. Intentionality.
Woo, that's a tough word, baby. Woo! That word makes my skin crawl.
Because it's where we live and refuse to acknowledge each other. The words we use, we define them and give them meaning from what we believe the intentionality is. So when our friends say to us, you're so stupid, we don't hear stupid automatically. Mm-hmm. The subconscious has picked up the word, but the conscious says, they don't mean that. Mm-hmm. They mean, oh, you funny. Right. You're a clown. You're just acting up. You love me. And all of a sudden, that's how it's stored away. While in cognitive dissonance, a part of us has bought the stupid lie. That's the truth.
That's underneath when you go home by yourself.
You go in and you're like, gosh, I guess I was stupid, huh? But you may never say those words ever.
Out loud, no.
But a part of you has taken that message. Words. That's why we're talking about words. But the truth is, the intentionality behind those words is what creates our ability to know what a person means. And if I took away all intentionality or perception of intentionality from a person, they wouldn't know what to do with the words. Because when someone texts you certain things, if you don't see the nonverbal cues,
Woo.
you are left with just. Have you ever gotten a text and you started to reply and you're like, hold on, let me just erase and figure out if I'm sure this is what they mean.
Woo.
Why?
But do you know how that gets established? Because the wedges of the upsets and the arguments are stored, and so when you first relate in a relationship with somebody and you're texting and everything that lands on your phone is so pleasant,
Right.
and they could say the funniest thing and they could curse at you and still be loving,
Right.
but then when you have a few arguments and now they are like, I don't know about you, and they text you and they say one of those words that's now is not funny no more, now
Right.
it's offensive.
And all of a sudden your mind is going, wait a minute. Love,
looking for the proof, looking
hate,
for the proof of the offenses.
it's not matching. And you have a choice now to respond. I think the question comes is when you start to respond, who do you want to be?
Yeah.
But first you have to come in, and this is what I was saying when we just had our conversation, come in with clear intentionality. Hi, Kakuko, we are talking. Welcome to the Healing Conversations for the Soul. And I just want to say, what do you say about the people speaking to you in your life? Because you may never tell the truth, but a part of you has already said things without saying them. Even right now, maybe, if you're in personal relationship with me, you know me. You may have told a story about me that doesn't match what's going on with me and you. Mm-hmm. What do you say about that person? And when you get to be in connection with them, how are you using what we call confirmation? How are you using that confirmation? How are you taking the bias of confirmation to create the story you want to tell? What words are you interpreting from that person's life and now creating them as your own reality? So let's go back, because I still want to finish this story.
Yeah.
You start to find healing when you change who you decided to be with your dad.
Oh, yeah.
And then he tells you, he says, my words for you in my mind towards you were, I love you. But you started the story very different, because you said, my dad doesn't love me, he left.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I started being acknowledgement and gratitude towards him, and even though I got frustrated still like normal, I remembered who I said I was going to be with my dad. And so I would catch myself and I'd be like, you know what, Dad, why would you recommend that? Oh, really? Oh, okay. So maybe I'll think about that.
I'll consider that.
I'll consider that. Thank you. And you know what, Dad? Thank you for your point of view on that. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
What did that do for him and you?
Man.
In that moment, in that time.
Man, it was the space of what I now learned is pure love.
Pure love.
Because my dad he now had the space to be my dad.
Mm. You freed him.
I freed him.
Love liberates you. Yes. That's what this shirt means.
Yeah, exactly.
This is not a plug for my shirt. That's
exactly.
This is what it actually means. Love frees you to be. So when you are in a space where you free someone to be the full self, to express themselves the way they really mean to be expressing themselves to you, you are doing what the shirt says. You're liberating the person, because true love, unconditional love, is the kind that...
I'm going to challenge you, because you said that word and I was about to plug that word, but what that space allowed my dad to show up, and because I continued being acknowledgement and gratitude to who he was being, I was free to accept him for who he was and who he wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to finally listen to him, and my
dad
was
without the judgment.
Without the judgment, and my dad was so great because he grew up off of cliches. Mm. So my dad was full of cliches and all these, if I was you, it's not what, and he would tell me all the time, it's not what people think about you, it's what you think about them that matters.
Mm.
And I'd be like, well, what does that mean? Like, I'm like, well, like, what does that? I don't know. Like, what does that mean? But that was like him reinforcing, like giving me the courage. Like, it's not what people think about you, it's what you think about them that matters.
So are you telling me that you started to have the ability to hear him
Oh,
clearly?
I heard. Oh, I heard. And what made it so great was because he was from all these cliches and these hypothetical conversations. I would challenge him in a loving way.
In a loving way.
That would be like, Dad, are you serious? Like, do you hear what you just said? And he would be like, oh, I did say that. Like it's so. Did I no longer was frustrated. We continued to play pool. I got to spend time with my dad more than just 2 hours. And from that moment on, our relationship flourished. And now, until he passed away, it was like, I can't wait to see you.
So
like,
a part of that
right,
is your ability to be consistent, number one,
mm-hmm.
in being who you said you were going to be with.
Yes.
Because my guess
the
is
intention
had to be set.
When I saw the damage that I did in the corruptedness of my views of my dad, I took 100% responsibility. That my dad was always there. He always, no matter what his life was dealing with, he did love me.
Showed up.
I could not prove that was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That was true. So then I had to look who I was being, and I was, like I said, and so I was committed and intended to be this new way of being with my dad, so that our relationship.
So I think we might be able to help some people here.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, because this is really for you guys. I'm asking this question. Did it happen automatically, or what was the process like that you changed who you wanted to be towards your dad without him changing anything? It was you that decided, I'm going to be a different person towards him.
I mean, it was when I saw that in the class, at the break of the class, I got on the phone and I called my dad and said, hey, Dad, you got a minute? He's like, yes, son, how you doing? I'm like, oh, Dad, I'm doing fine. I'm in this landmark class. Hey, I just want to tell you, thank you for teaching me how to tie my shoes. Thank you for teaching me how to color. Thank you for taking me to the beach. Thank you for the McDonald's trips when I was little. Thank you for picking me up and hanging out with me and watching the planes land over LAX. Like, I looked and I thanked him for everything I could think of. And I said, you know what, Dad? By the way, I made up a story that I realized today that wasn't the truth. And I want to tell you the story. And I explained to him that story about being 5 and what I made it mean and how I treated him. And I told him, and today I just want you to know that I apologize. I'm asking for your forgiveness. And who I'm going to be with you today is acknowledgement and gratitude. And I told him that I'm going to be acknowledgement and gratitude towards you because I love you. And that was the practice. And so no matter how mad I messed up, there was times that I was frustrated and angry.
Yeah.
But then I caught myself
and you were like, this is not acknowledgement. This is not.
And I would be like, you know what, Dad? I just want to tell you. And that was right before he passed away. We had a disagreement. Well, I had a disagreement, and I called him, and he was with my aunt. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm with Gloria. We're just watching TV, and something was going on in my space. And so I was like, you know what? All right, I'll talk to you later. Right? And I hung up. And I was driving. I says, no. I called him back and said, hey, Dad, I want to apologize for my behavior when I hung up on the phone with you. I'm dealing with something in my life. I really kind of wanted to talk to you, but I see you're with my aunt, so we can't have this conversation now. So I just want to just be responsible for how I came across if I said something to you, because I know I had an attitude when I hung up the phone. So I'm acknowledging my attitude.
I just want to say, do you realize what kind of a gift you gave him? That's a gift. And I know that I'm not the only one who struggles with this. Where you're in relationship with someone in your family, it could be your mom or your dad, it could be your brother, your sister, and you find yourself needing to be right.
Yeah.
Over needing to be in communication and community with them.
Well, if they call me out, if they call me first, I'm not
And it's
calling them unless
this
they call me.
need to be right that prevents us from seeing the true intention of other people. Now, is it possible for someone to have a genuinely negative intention?
Perception, interpretation, and perspectives.
We are now
So,
beginning our conversation for real.
so you have to look at all those different views before you could. Now there are some parents who, but still you have to. If you be compassionate with your parent who is talking to you in this language, I had to look back after I discovered myself with my dad. Let me look at how he was with his father, my
Right.
grandfather. And so I saw how my grandfather was with how he described. It was like, well, no wonder. Well, no wonder my dad had those views of life, because that was his views that he learned from his father. So he only knew how to do what he learned how to do.
So
Or the opposite.
what were you saying about when you looked at your dad's relationship with his dad? What did you see?
I saw my grandfather instilling him, because my grandfather was post-slavery as a young child.
Yep.
So he told my dad, I'm going to teach you how to be independent, not worry about the man, not worry about the white man, like all these kind of conversations. And I would hear my dad, like, you got to listen to people when they talk to you. People tell you what they're dealing with in their words that they choose to use. And I would always hear my dad say about his dad that, like, my dad only took me to this certain point of my life. Like, my dad would always reflect on his relationship with his father, which was incomplete.
Yep. And here's the thing. You used a word that I actually am writing a song about, and I think it's crucial for us to get to that point where we can, as a society and as individuals, start to be truthful about this. It took you having a level of compassion for someone that did not show up to you as whole.
Yeah, exactly.
Seeing somebody for who they are, even when you didn't see the perfection that you would expect from that person, when in reality, you may not even expect that perfection from yourself.
Of course not.
But you saw the imperfection.
Oh, I saw it, and it was
how did you get
beautiful.
to compassion? How did you get to compassion for them?
Acknowledgement and gratitude. I stood on those two. No matter what he said, I acknowledged it, and I asked questions. When he talked about
Why would you stand on that?
Because who I was being in those ways of being was connectedness.
So really what you're saying is, because you had chosen to be something and you wanted to be that thing.
Oh yeah.
And so you listened to the principle over just going for
how I felt.
This is what shows up, so I'm just going to react to it.
Oh yeah, no. I spoke to him versus how I felt. Because I still was frustrated with him. I was still.
Because he's human.
Yeah.
But I think a part of what's there for us to acknowledge is that when people show up, if all we're doing is reacting, we don't have enough resources to actually be able to be the thing we say we want to be in the world. If I want to be a loving person, I'm going to need to recognize that not everybody that comes towards me will come forward with the same intention or as I read their intention.
Right.
I'm going to need to accept that who I am, and this is where the word separate came. This story is so powerful that honestly, I didn't even use a lot of my notes. But I'm saying who you choose to be. Go ahead.
If you have a parent and your mom says to you, even if you're 30 years old and your mom says, make sure you put a coat on before you go outside, make sure you do you know that that's love?
That's
do you
love.
know that that's your parent expressing love? And sometimes if your views of your parent is corrupted, you take that as they're offensive, or you try to tell me what to do. Like, we don't really understand that those corrupted thoughts that we have with our parent. And again, when you listen to people talk about their parents, you'll hear the context of course, I love my dad, but he gets on my nerves.
Yes.
So what does that get on my nerve piece?
Stop. You're going too fast.
Okay.
I love my dad, but So let's store the love my dad part, right? And this is
Right.
not really, this was never intended to be a show about my dad. Really, this is a show
That's
about
cool.
words, but it is so appropriate.
Words that create the story.
Words that create the story. I love my dad, but. Now, here's the but part.
Yeah.
But he gets on my nerves. This is the part that we oftentimes miss in that section of the words. What do I bring to the table as the way I see my dad? And you could
Exactly.
replace dad with any other person in your life to make sense of this.
Of course.
But what do I bring to the story of getting on my nerves that makes it possible for me to be triggered enough that when whatever he does, I fit it into that story?
Exactly.
And then the question becomes, am I willing to change it? So willingness, right? To separate myself from what the person is doing and who I choose to be in the world.
Right.
I can be a different person. It doesn't matter that someone is getting under quote unquote my skin. First of all, they shouldn't live there. They don't pay rent.
Right. Nobody can make you mad. And that's when in your way of being, again, perception, interpretation, and perspectives, no one can make you mad.
Okay, I'm going to go there.
No one can make you mad.
How did you, because you have sickle cell trait, and we're not going to go into the story of sickle cell because I think I'm going to do a show just on that.
Okay.
But how did you, as someone with the sickle cell trait who experiences, and your story is so phenomenal, I don't want to share it just in a bypassing thing.
Okay.
I think we need a whole conversation about. I'm serious, y'all. I won't do that to you because it would be wrong. But I'm saying, in this part, you have dealt with other parts of your life in sickle cell, because I know you, I know this, where you've dealt with the reality of this is a no good situation. And yet you can be someone or something different. You can be someone different in the situation. How did you use that principle to guide you in dealing with real situations? Because a lot of people will say, well, this is a story about you and your dad, so obviously, yeah, that works for you and your dad because, you know, perspectives change. But what about when the thing that you're talking about is so physical that it doesn't change? And the only thing that could possibly change in this situation is you.
Yeah.
Does it still work?
Yeah, it works because I had to separate myself from that gene, right? And also how I talk about my gene. I could talk about it as if it defines me, or I could talk about it as it's something that I have to manage. And so if I tell you that my sickle cell trait doesn't define me, but then I'm still complaining about it, guess what? It's
It
defining me
defines you because it's controlling
because it's
who you
controlling
get
how I
to be.
talk. Exactly.
It's controlling who you show up in the world as. Now, here's the thing, because I have sickle cell disease by definition because I have dealt with it my whole life, even though I haven't had a crisis in 6 years, thanks to men standing in front of me and God first.
Yes.
But here's the issue. We live with realities like this all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Like the people, well, let's not use people but I was gonna say my job sucks. You know what I mean? Nothing's gonna change about your actual duties at work just because you change your perspective. But changing who you choose to be at work or at school, I mean, put whatever you want in there.
Right.
That's the part that you get to control. And how much control are you willing to give that? Because part of it is, I think, and when we did that conversation about power, which I thought was powerful, is that I don't get to express myself, because power is really about, and this is something I've been playing with in my head, power is actually about self-expression. Anything that is unwilling to let you express yourself is a thief of your power for who you really are. Anything that gets in the way, whether it's a label, whether it's a person's opinion of you, or your own opinion of yourself that gets in the way of who you think you are.
Most of it is that right there. Anyway.
Most of it is that. But there are other factors, right? Whatever that factor might be, it gets in the way of you expressing yourself. That's your power being hindered, right? So when you stop When the power is hindered that way, it really is just self-expression that's hindered.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
this is why
yeah,
it's so crucial to look at how am I choosing to express or show up in the world. You chose two words, but whatever's powerful to you, right, that will help you to become the person that you know you are, but you are not being, the words you choose
yeah. See, the
can change you.
words create our world, and the downside of words
But
is,
that sounds so corny
I
when you
know, but
just said it.
I'm about to break it down for you, because the words create our world because of how we describe in life. You guess what? You will never be able to describe life in a description, because the way you see it, the next person next to you will see that same view in another description, and then you argue about what you
Who's
see and what I see.
who's seeing the
So
right thing?
who's seeing the right thing? So when you understand that, when you describe in your life, when we talk about struggles and circumstances and problems and issues, you're describing something in your life that you're dealing with, but you won't say exactly what it is. So
This
you
means
say, when you say I'm struggling, well, I'm gonna look at my life and see, well, I know what that means to me. Well, if that means that mean to me, then it must mean to you. So okay, well, you struggling too? Oh, I'm struggling too. And then nothing gets worked out.
this is the conversation we came to have. We finally are here. So really, the conversation is about the meaning we ascribe to the world around us and our willingness to change the meaning when it doesn't work.
It takes courage.
It takes a lot of courage because people around you will tell you, well, that's just not the meaning. You will tell yourself, well, that's just not the meaning. Look, I got proof. What you have to be courageous to do is to change the meaning regardless of what people tell you it's supposed to be.
Here's an example of how to run your life.
Yeah.
Whoever's watching this, or you watch this later, if you know baseball, the umpire is the guy behind the plate. No matter what pitch comes across that plate, that pitch doesn't mean anything until the umpire calls it. Whether it's a strike or a ball, when that ball is released and it comes across and that catcher catches it, they're waiting for the umpire
To
to
make the call.
call it a ball or a strike.
Right.
And no matter if he calls it a ball and you think it's a strike, it don't matter what you say, the coach says, the batter says, no matter what
This is what
nobody
it is.
says except what the umpire says. And you could be the umpire of your life, and no matter what anybody tells you about your life, you could be like, you know what? I appreciate that, but I'm gonna make it mean this. And and
That
why do you think that? First, why do you acknowledge them? Why do you think I should do it that way?
right. Acknowledge
And
people.
they might
And truly
be
be
able to give you
interested
some,
to
yeah,
hear.
and truly be interested, because they might give you some consequences that you don't know
Or
could
didn't
be
think about.
coming, or even thought about. So when you engage with a conversation with someone, you can be already know your answer, that you what you want to do. Like I really didn't want my dad's input.
Right.
I just wanted to talk to my dad.
Right.
I was looking to how to connect,
Absolutely.
and
And we do this in relationships all the time.
oh yeah, all
We
day,
walk in and we're like,
all
okay.
day.
And then you think you set your intentions, right? You're like, well, this is what I want. No, intentions isn't about what you want. Intentions is about knowing why you want what you want. Intentions is understanding the reason why you want what you want. That's where intentions live. If I just simply say, well, I want you to listen to me, I'm
What?
not really being honest.
Yeah. What is that? Yeah. What is that?
It's I want you to listen to me because I need, now that's the part that's hurt, that you're unwilling to touch, which
Right.
is I need attention.
Yeah.
Ooh. Now that puts you in a vulnerable space, but it opens up the world of possibilities to you and the person you're in relationship with. And so part of that is being willing to actually tell the truth at the most fundamental level of your words. Who do you want to be? Not just because you want to be.
Hey, after I took landmark education, there was some words that I used for those 40, 35 years or however long I've been talking that I don't use those words anymore.
Let's talk about them. What words?
I don't use the word busy.
Why?
Because for me, when I used the word busy, it was like I had no time for nothing. I'm busy. You busy? I'm busy.
And it was rigid.
It was rigid. So you like you talk to people and like, what you doing today? Oh, I'm busy. I got to go to the store. And then what you doing? Well, that's it. Like, so how long does it actually take you to go to the store?
Right.
3 hours?
Yeah. But you busy.
But you busy, right? So for me, that word gave me it gave me no power.
Right.
So what I did was I said, I'm up to a lot of stuff. Are you busy? No, I'm not busy. I'm up to stuff. So what do you ask me to do? And then let me listen. Maybe I could put that in my schedule.
Yeah.
If it's something I'm interested in. But we kill people off.
How did changing that word for you change your reality and the way you interacted with people?
It allowed me to take on stuff that mattered to me.
How?
By creating my schedule. It reduced my anxiety. For one, it reduced my experience of anxiety because it caused me to look in my calendar versus in my mind with all this other stuff going on, and then like, oh, I'm busy. No, I'm not busy. Let me check my schedule, and then let me see what you're talking about. First of all, if I'm even interested to have this conversation.
Yo. So part of that was that there was anxiety around the word.
Oh yeah, because so for me, again, now you're talking about the experience. Anxiety is an experience.
Absolutely.
So when people talk about I have anxiety about my life, for me the future of uncertainty creates anxiety. So if your mind is all the way out till 2022 or today's Thursday and I'm living into next January 1st, I have no control over January 1st. So I had to reduce my anxiety, which was I started living 2 days out. So today's Thursday, I'm living into Saturday. Well, what you doing? What you doing on December 1st? Talk to me on the 29th. And then I'll look at that.
That is taking control of your own life.
Yes.
It's being able to say, okay, busy creates anxiety for me because I have to remember everything. I have to be in control of everything. I'm doing things, but I want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah.
And now you've opened up the opportunities for things that perhaps you may get involved with, but you're able to say, hey, I'm listening. I'm not busy. Busy means I have no time.
Yeah. Busy.
The time is mine. I'm going to decide what happens with the time. I'm willing to be more than just busy. So that's not the word that's going to allow me to be empowered and to do the things that I choose to do for my life. I'm taking it out.
So like the relationship with my dad. And so here's something else. I had a relationship to time. I had a relationship to my dad. I have a relationship to relationships. Like when you think about a relationship, you have to look at your relationship to
what
relationship.
What is your relationship to relationship?
Right? So
Stop.
And that's all connected to our experience. And so you have to look in your life and look at, we have relationships to money.
Yeah.
We have relationships to time. Like, so we have a relationship to death. So you have to know what your relationship is to yourself and to these things in life that you say that you are interested in or you care about. So I had to look at my relationship to time. And my relationship to time was busy gives me anxiety. So I don't want to live in anxiety. So what way of being and what word can I use to articulate when I communicate to people? But I still hear people say, I'm busy. And
what do you hear now when you hear that?
So first of all, I had to stop invalidating people.
Right.
Because I would invalidate people by saying, I don't use the word busy.
And they're like, but I'm busy.
Right. And so I had to acknowledge that people still use that word and what it means to them, it doesn't mean it to me. So I had to then be okay with the word busy, but I don't use it for my own life.
Okay, here's a comment real quick. I'm going to read this. It says, Jordan Douglas, my niece, says, did that help alleviate stress as well as anxiety? It's a
all
great
the way.
question.
All the way. So anxiety is future, depression is past.
Right.
So
wait. Don't go too fast. You got to go back. Okay. Before you even go to anxiety as past and future, I mean, let's did it help relieve or alleviate the stress? And you said absolutely.
Absolutely, yes.
And a part of understanding that is your relationship to anxiety versus depression. Yes. In other words, the future versus the past. What does that mean? Explain that, because I think this will be a healing point for a lot of people.
So again, with anxiety, again, now you're talking about anxiety. It's a word, it's a descriptive word. It's just, you're describing something in your life that's causing anxiety.
Yep.
You have to be honest with yourself and find out what is, you know what it is. You know what's causing the anxiety. You know what you're worried about, but you won't say it out loud. So we've been taught to use words to describe it. So I'm not going to tell you what I'm anxious about, because it might be embarrassing. It might make you look at me a different kind of way. So if you're going to use that label of anxiety, you got to be able to look in your own life and figure out what are you anxious about honestly, and then take that on or don't take it on. Because you're just, by describing it, there's no action being done with that. If so, there was a lady that I interviewed with, and she said that she had anxiety because if she felt she went into a sickle cell crisis, that she was going to be evicted from her apartment.
And I so said, she's living in the future.
She's living into an eviction of an apartment has not happened today. And she's not even in a crisis today. She's financially stable. So I'm like, you're living into eviction.
Which
are
never
you being
happened.
Evicted? I'm like, are you evicted today? No. Are you getting evicted tomorrow? No. Are you getting evicted next month? No. So then why are you living into because if I have a crisis, it creates this worry, and then my finances.
And let me just first say, I get it.
Yes.
Because I fully understand, not just because it's a sickle cell thing, but because it's life.
It's a human
to live and recognize, because you have experience.
Yes.
To never use the experience from the past to dictate what's possible in the future would drive most of us nuts.
Oh, we do it all day.
So most of us are going, well, this happened last time, it's probably gonna happen again. I bet you this is, and a part of what's going on in the brain there is there's receptors that are firing off every time we're right about something. And a lot of times when you hear yourself saying stuff like, man, I'm so glad because if I hadn't, you at that point, when you say that, I'm so glad I blanked, because if I hadn't blanked, this would have happened. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you are automatically throwing up that receptor to say, bing, I was right. I was right. And even if you might not have been right.
I thought about that the other day, and I said to myself, people don't realize that who's the common denominator in all these relationships that don't work? Who's the common denominator? You are. I am.
And so people are unwilling to actually say, oh, wait a minute. I'm a part of the equation here, why this doesn't work. And so whatever you're being, you're just taking it completely out of the equation and just saying, it's whatever's happening to me.
Yeah.
And the truth is, the most empowering thing you can do for yourself is to place yourself back into the equation honestly. And to say,
and once you have that question about what you're anxious about, find somebody that you trust. Find somebody that you could, your homegirl or your homeboy, somebody that you have confidence in that's not going to expose you or make you whatever. Find somebody and talk to them about that and get help in that conversation.
Absolutely, because it's hard to have a conversation about you with yourself.
You're always going to be right.
Because a part of you is driving the conversation, saying it's not me.
Yeah.
Automatically. Oh, it's not me. I'm not doing that. I never do that. I would never do that. when in reality, a part of you is actually doing the thing you say you don't do. And so this is why it's so crucial to have these conversations in honesty, right? So now, another comment. Let me put this, Jordan. You
Yeah,
are fire
that's
tonight. Thank you
exactly
for
it.
sharing, you guys. Thank you for sharing. Make sure you post the likes and stuff when you're enjoying this. It helps us to share this conversation because I really believe people need this.
Yeah,
But let me read this comment. It says, I
that's
do the
exactly what it
same
looks
thing
like.
with school.
That's
I live
exactly what
2
it looks like.
years out. I if I don't pass the semester, I won't be able to transfer next fall, which means I won't be able to pursue my dream career, which makes me which makes me I missed half of that. Oh, unsuccessful person. That's my thinking process, and I just realized by saying that.
Yes. You are so
that's
far
that,
in your future, in your career, that
that's why this is
your
healing
education, you can't
conversations.
even enjoy your school. You can't even enjoy your education right now. The
And the
beauty of being in
healing,
school.
listen, the healing cannot happen unless you have these conversations with yourself,
Yeah, that's
being
exactly what
willing.
that looks like.
And I want to welcome King Charles. Welcome into the conversation. You're in a healing conversation. Enjoy.
And anybody who had those thoughts about school would have that experience. So it's not
Absolutely.
about you're not singled out in that. That is anybody. Let me tell you this. I graduated the Radio Academy in 2016, and I was going to go to the TV broadcasting right afterwards.
Oh, you know why
But
I'm so excited? Go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
wouldn't. You know why I didn't go back to school? It took me 3 years to go back to school because I had test anxiety. And I told myself, I am not taking another test. And I refused to go back to school. So what I did 3 years later, I checked myself and says, you know what? How am I'm already living into the final exams of this TV school, and I haven't even signed up. So I had to look at my focus and sign up, and I went to school, and I ended up being the first person in that academy to graduate both classes in top of the class with 90% is over in that school been around since 1983.
Let me just say this. Most of us are brilliant. You hear
Of
me?
course, yes.
I'm not just saying smart or kind of.
That's a
Most of us
self-sabotage conversation right there.
Most of us, and when I say most of us, the only reason I say most of us is because I'm recognizing that I understand that some people come in with physical disabilities,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Or mental disabilities. But most of us are brilliant, but fearful.
Oh man, I was not going back to 3 years. It took me to go back to school, and I went back because I had to catch myself, and I was living into the finals. Like I didn't want to take that 100 question test. Like the 100 question test, even the one in the radio school, I got like 83 out of 100. But I still said I'm not taking I'm not going back. I'm
That's fear that
fear.
guides your future. Now, what about fear that
Exactly.
guides your past? What is it to turn into?
Oh, depression,
So we have to be honest with ourselves about where we're
resentment,
living.
resentment and regret.
Are we living in the fear of the future or the fear of the past? And at the center of that is this one truth.
Yeah.
Fear is not a great reality. It is
Right.
something that comes in to hide possibility.
Right.
It is a stagnator. So part of what you have to ask yourself is, in my conversations with myself, what words am I using in my language? And this is really where this conversation is meant to be had. In my language, am I using words that are creating a language pattern that is negative towards myself or others? Because believing that language pattern creates what I end up having. If I'm unwilling to have a new conversation, I cannot begin to walk in a new way. I can't begin to see life or even live life. So, like you said at the beginning, when you said, my dad doesn't love me. But then you come to the exact opposite when you ask the question of what he was saying about you. He was saying, I love my son. But in between, you had a story of words, language that defined what was possible. that defined what was even likely in your life. And you gave him the gift of acknowledgement. And you said, I'm going to acknowledge what you say. And you gave him the gift of gratitude. That gift changed what was possible for you. And I still see the remnant of that in your life right now from that gift.
Like I said, the process that it took to get there, and the healing process, and who I got to be with my dad. The memories that I had proof of that he didn't love me, those memories disappeared
Gone.
because I made them up and they wasn't true. So what's left is all the great
Possibilities.
and possibility that we created from that moment.
Yep.
And by me acknowledging him for those moments of my childhood where he taught me how to color and stay in between the lines, and and all the great things, like, man.
Can I
So
say something to you? Now, this is me and
yeah.
you, because we've had conversations for everybody in here. But I will say this to you. It can also create possibilities for him while he's not even here physically.
What that did was he saw who I was being with him, and when he decided to take Landmark, because he took Landmark
Yeah.
a year before he passed away,
Yeah.
man, then he got to deal with his life issues that he was living for 60 years. 60 years because of what he grew up with his dad at 8 years old.
We
And
have
he
4 minutes left.
Okay, so 60 years. So my dad's life was transformed just the same as mine was in his own version. And so he was at peace.
I
Because
hate that
he
our
didn't
time
like
is up,
white
but
people.
I want to get this rapid fire.
Go ahead. Okay, let's go.
So-
Rapid fire.
So this rapid fire is just questions that I'm going to ask you. And what you're going to do is you're going to answer them very, very, very much in one word, less than 2 words. If you
Okay.
cannot get
Ooh, one. Oh, really? Okay, go ahead.
no more than 2 words.
I'm Rick James.
And and what you're going to do is you're going to answer them as honestly as you can.
Okay, let's go.
And after this, we're gonna close. And I just want to say, before we start this rapid fire, I just hope that tonight's conversation was just the beginning of a conversation. We have these every Thursday night at 9:32 p.m. Invite your friends, tell them about it, because we're healing. I'm healing every week. I'm grateful for these conversations, and every time we have them, people's lives are transformed. I guarantee you. And so I'm telling you, don't hesitate to share this with people. It's one of those things that I say to people every time. You can be the seed that plants into someone else's freedom for tomorrow. So don't hesitate to share.
No.
Okay. Now let's go into this rapid fire.
Rapid fire. One word or 2 words only?
No more than 2 words.
Okay, go ahead.
Here we go.
I gotta
Something
listen.
that made you happy today.
Sharing my story.
Something that made you sad today.
Hearing how, oh man, you said 2 words? Golly. My community.
Something that you're grateful for today.
My life.
The name of a person you wouldn't like to live your life without. Yeah, I know. You can always say passive.
My mom.
Something that brings you calm in any storm of life.
My faith in God.
Your favorite thing to do when you're in trouble.
Drive.
Something that gives you faith in humanity.
Peace of mind.
What you think the world can use more of today.
Pure love.
What your greatest hope for the next generation is.
Freedom to think.
The first question you'd ask God if you got to heaven today.
Did I make it?
What you want people to learn about themselves, before judging other human beings?
Repeat that question one more time.
What you want people to learn about themselves before judging other human beings?
Challenge your mindset.
The greatest impact of racism on children, one word.
Judgment.
Where does the soul go after death?
Hell or heaven. I don't know. I don't
Thank you
know.
for joining Healing Conversations. We'll see you guys next week.
I don't know.
I was honored to have you here, brother.
No, man. Hey, can I say one last thing before you get cut off?
You can.
Please. When you talk about love in your own life and you describe it, please, 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 don't say unconditional or conditional love. Because when you hear what you're saying, unconditional love means that there are still conditions in that love. So it's unconditional until that person misbehaves or acts up again. So there is pure experience, pure love. Love is just love. And when you accept love from another person, it's not about the 5 love languages, and it's not about all these things. It's about allowing that person to express that love for you and accepting that love in its purest form. And we talked about words, and I don't use unconditional or conditional because it still has conditions in those words. That's it.
It was an honor to have you.
Let's go.
Good night, everybody.
All right, man. Thanks, man. I appreciate you, man, and I love these talks. And they'll catch me in the comments section next time.
All right. Good night, everybody.
All right, later.